Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of Vibes of Life. Life is a struggle. We know that saying. Those more militant still add that life is a constant struggle. Yes, undoubtedly, many people firmly believe that the most important thing in life is the struggle. In the simplest terms, one could say that people are fighting for a better life. A better life is associated with possessions, so the response is seemingly logical. The more you possess, the better and the happier you are. Unfortunately, it is only life's fata morgana. The more ambitious and affluent also fight to get something better, more expensive at a higher level of quality, something premium and preferably something luxurious. Here comes the important goal of this struggle, to show the world that one can afford more, nicer bigger house, a fancy car, a more affluent and attractive partner, an interesting life, high life. Of course, there are many more motives to fight. One fights for recognition, for fame, for a higher social position, for power and for a better place to live. This is the motivation of the vast majority of people. Somewhere in the margins tangled some less fashionable motives, self-realization, doing something good for the world, helping people in need. Yes, people are struggling. You can see it in their fierce faces, treating others as enemies, because after all, not everyone can achieve success in life, either we or others. This fire to fight can be seen in the pace of movement. The bigger the city, the more vigorous this pace is. A big influence on this brave attitude is the modern trends, consumerism, the pursuit of prosperity, and showing others symbols of life success. Adding to this is the trend strongly shown by psychologists and motivational speakers of taking care of oneself, of one's benefits, of one's career, of increasing banking account, of one's goals, of oneself. The consequence of such a warrior-like attitude is supposed to be the development of societies, or at least development of societies in material terms. It is certainly positive if you consider things more important than people. Of course, not everyone is suitable for combat. Some live quite poorly, and yet their lives are filled with other, whatever higher values. They are simply able to enjoy what they have and cherish more things and relationships with other people, particularly with friends and loved ones. Some have dropped out of this modern battlefield altogether and live in train stations and on park benches. Others pretend to be helpless because they can function quite decently thanks to extorted welfare benefits. This is also a form of struggle, only anything more insidious. So there are also those who under red communist flags nobly fight to take away from others what they had previously won. Behind this is the illuminating idea that all people are equal. This is demonstrated by the Gini index, a measure of the level of social inequality. Recently, one of my students passionately defended the thesis that an ideal society should strive to lower this index as much as possible, which would mean that all people, regardless of their life commitment, should have the same amount. It's a ridiculous fight, but it's just as ridiculous to identify our existence as an arena for a life and death struggle. As you can see, it's quite easy to get lost in this life struggle. People get lost when they are so engrossed in the struggle that they can't press the off button and remain in perpetual struggle mode, including when they are with their families or friends. People fail the way when they lose sight of priorities, get consumed by fighting for small things, successes whose effects fade quickly and irrevocably, and there is usually no more time for higher values. People get lost when they forget what they are fighting for, and over time, fighting as such becomes the goal of their lives. They lose themselves when they earn another beautiful car, while their relationships fall apart, and they lose touch with their children. They win in one field and lose in others, and in the long run, the balance most often is in the red. People lose their way when they fight beyond their strength at the expense of their health, and when they achieve their so-called success, they spend their hard-won money on the maintenance of patchwork families and intensive medical treatment. Others become so lost in this struggle that out of momentum, they treat all the people around them as enemies and are unable to recognize those who are kind and friendly. There are also pseudo-experts in the art of life struggle who want to change the world and fight windmills but are unable to change at least a small part of themselves for the better. People also get lost in the rush of life. The faster they run, the more they fall behind and lose what is most important in life. According to Steve Maraboli, direction is much more important than speed. Many people are speeding to nowhere. Oh, I would have forgotten. Some are too weak to win something on their own, but have an amazing amount of strength to destroy the creativity of others, and most willingly to destroy other people with satisfaction. Of course, I don't mean to discourage you from life's struggle. Struggle is necessary so that we can achieve something important and ambitious and accomplish our life goals. However, it's necessary to know how to fight, what to fight for, when is the time to fight, and when it's better to take care of regular work, relationships with other people, or our due relaxation and entertainment. There's a time to fish and a time to dry your fishnets. A statement by Artur Szpilka, a former heavyweight boxer who spent 2 years in prison for beating and street fighting in his youth, could be an inspiration. He then fought for gambling winnings, and after obvious defeats on many fronts, finally came to the profound conclusion that life is not about getting beaten up over knickknacks. Essentially, he has changed his life completely. Certainly, life struggle takes sense when you are fighting for something, not against something, or even more so, not against someone. It happens, of course, that when fighting for set goals, we fight against others, but then it's worth ensuring that it's an ethical fight with rules, a fight for values and competence instead of conspiring against others. It is necessary to have a certain vision of your development in life, to know what you want to achieve. This also means that it is advisable to set priorities and to take a discount on trivial matters about which there is no point in writing adult. A life's vision, however, cannot be one-dimensional. Thus, a holistic approach comes to mind. It's about taking into account various important areas of our lives and our relationship with the world, in particular with people close to us. The recently fashionable term balance can be very helpful in shaping our warrior attitude towards the world. It will certainly help us not to get lost in its struggle. Life is simply too short and passes too quickly to fight hard battles over anything, any crumbles. There are also times when the legitimate goal of our life struggle may be to start all important things over again, especially when it turns out that the immense landscape around us unambiguously shows that we have reached a life dead end, and continuing the earlier struggle no longer makes sense. Life's change is particularly difficult as most of the well-wishers will convince you that things are nice and friendly here after all, although the reality creaks and shows that it's quite different. Therefore, it's worth fighting if such a struggle has a deeper meaning and we have a good chance of victory. It is especially worth fighting for dreams, also so that years later we don't regret the missed opportunities. If you already undertake this legitimate struggle, you should give your best to win it. You can't stop when you feel tired. Don't give up when something or someone throws you to the ground. You don't have to pick yourself up right away. Sometimes it's worth laying down for a while and getting up when you gain strength again and find a new method and motivation to keep fighting. Momentary rest is not giving up. And remember that after the darkest night comes the day, and the sun will rise again. What is bad never lasts forever. Finally, it is advisable to have a broadest perspective of our life struggles. After all, we are not eternal, and each of us will be left with only a handful of ashes decades or years later. Even if we have enemies, after all, we won't continue to fight them in another transcendental dimension. It would look anything but funny. Before that, however, we will leave behind a container of things that are no longer needed by anyone, and which we had eagerly got with such awareness for many years. And if so, it's certainly worth fighting for higher values, for truth, for honor, for love, for friendship, for freedom, for faith, for how much and what will be left of us in the souls, in the hearts, and in the memory of those who will take up the baton of life after us. The things you do for yourself are gone when you're gone, but the things you do for others remain as your legacy. Ciao, till the next episode.